pranams to all the seniors present in the auditorium, in the hall. My namaskars to everyone listening, those who are physically present there and those who are listening to the streaming in different parts of the country and maybe even the world. To begin with, I'm in the middle of a 7-day, 7-state sort of a visit. It wasn't planned. It fell that way. And it turns out that I have had to undergo a tooth extraction last evening. So I hope at times when I am not as clear as I should sound, you'll forgive me. It is a wonderful conversation point, Swami Vivekananda and youth leadership. And I was wondering this morning that what should I talk to you about when we talk about Swami Vivekananda and youth leadership? And I decided to break it into 3 parts. The first one is Swami Vivekananda and our national life, or Swami Vivekananda in our national life. Second one was Swami Vivekananda in my life, in my personal life. And third is Swamiji in action, what I have been able to see and witness. So as many young people who are seated here and many of you who have been a part of the Viveka Vani lecture series previously, you are largely initiated in terms of ideas and thoughts, worldview and vision, impact and influence of Swami Vivekananda on young people and old people, men, women and children alike all over the world, not just India. We know that the first Indian Prime Minister called Swami Vivekananda the fountainhead of inspiration. Mahatma Gandhi visited the Belur Mutt, and when he was asked to give a comment, he said, "Today I have not come here to speak. Today I have come here to soak inspiration from Swami Vivekananda. Young people should read him." And Mahatma Gandhi remarks at one point that my love for India grew thousandfold, grew manifold when I first read Vivekananda. Netaji Subhash Chandra Bose talks about how if Swamiji was alive, he would have spent the rest of his life at his feet doing his work, which eventually he was. No wonder in Delhi today there is a Kartavya Path and it has Netaji's statue right there. So all of India's greatest icons, that generation that fought for freedom, that generation that brought India back at the front, they were all inspired by Swamiji. Swamiji's life, Swamiji's work, Swamiji's message had a huge impact on that generation of leaders, and it has continued to so far. So I will not go too much into India's national life and Swamiji. We know the stories of great men and women of that generation whose lives were touched by Swamiji, who were inspired by Swamiji, scientists and industrialists, philosophers and writers, politicians and freedom fighters. Swamiji's words seem to have an impact that would transform their lives and through them, lives of millions of others. Swamiji had an impact on my life as well. The name that you read, Sharad Vivek Sagar, Vivek comes from Swami Vivekananda. When I was a small kid, when I was first explained the meaning of my name, when I was first told that Vivek in your name comes from Swami Vivekananda, I had little to no idea who Swamiji was. Because many of you must have chosen to read Swamiji, to learn from Swamiji, to reflect on his teachings when you were maybe 10, 12, 13, 15, in your early teens or right before that. But for me, they say that you get punya when you make a good choice. So I do not know if I was able to receive that punya because I did not choose Swamiji. Right before I was born, that was already kind of chosen. My father used to go to the Ramakrishna Mission library in Patna. And he had this inspiration at one point in time that either I'll join the order of monks, or if I'm forced into worldly life, I'll name my kids after Swamiji and I will make sure that they read Swamiji from a young age. So my brother, when he was born, Basant came from Basant Ritu, the season in which he was born, Vivek from Swami Vivekananda, Sagar from Ishwar Chand Vidya Sagar, and the name put together would mean Basant Vivek Sagar, Basant who will be an ocean of wisdom. When I was born, same way, Sharad Vivek Sagar. So the hope was that with Swamiji's name, with the learnings and teachings from great people's lives, we would become oceans of wisdom. That is a challenge for centuries. No one ever knows whether you become an ocean of wisdom or not, but you can at least begin sipping from it a little bit. So my parents must have felt the responsibility after naming me that when you name a child after Swamiji, how do you ensure that that child at least walks 0.1% of the path that Swamiji showed? So I grew up in small towns and villages of Bihar, and in every house where we lived, each one of the rented houses on the 4 walls, we had quotations of Sri Ramakrishna, Holy Mother Ma Sharda Devi, and Swami Vivekananda pasted in English and Hindi on every wall. Every morning when we woke up, my brother, my sister and I, the first thing we used to do was we used to read the quotations of Swami Vivekananda aloud. And after that, we got started with work. Second thing we used to do was we used to read newspapers, which used to come one day late in these parts of the country where I grew up. And the third thing was we used to read and write, like all the textbooks and notebooks used to come home, and we used to study at home. For first 12 years of my life, I did not have regular schooling. But these three things I see as an important part of my education. When I was reading Swamiji at a young age, Swamiji's message was almost clear to me in very simple words. Build yourself to build India. One time, Swami Shuddhidanandji Maharaj, currently the Adhyaksha of Advaita Ashram, he and I were going in a car. There was an event in Rajkot on Indian ethos for modern management. So Swami Shuddhidanandji Maharaj asked me a question. He said, Sharad, you were very young when you were reading Swamiji. What did you understand from Swamiji's life? When a 7-8-year-old kid is trying to read Swamiji, what does he understand? So I said, Maharaj, now that you ask, I begin to think of it. And I wonder, I might have seen Swamiji as a superhero. I did not grow up with television. I did not read comics. But Swamiji for me was like a superhero. When there was darkness in this country, Swamiji was the radiant light. When there was hopelessness in this country, Swamiji was talking with courage, with hope, with faith that India shall revive itself. When other people had given up, when other people were talking about India's bad days, India's worst possible days, the current of those days was India's darkest probably. Swamiji was talking about India's glorious days from the past and how the coming glory in front of that, even the glory of the past will fade. So Swamiji was all about hope and courage and faith. When in India, we could not even unfurl our tricolor, Swami Vivekananda in Chicago spoke, and the whole world looked at India as a country that could teach so much to the world, from maths and sciences to the larger truth about man's inner journey. So Swami Vivekananda for me was clearly a superhero. And that pressure, not just pressure, it is technically a joy that you begin to feel. That Swamiji said that your concentration should be high. Swamiji said that you should commit yourself to a greater cause. Swamiji talked about intensifying that faith in one's own self. So all of that used to feel like, okay, this is the path that one must walk. So at the age of 12, I came to the city of Patna with my mother. My elder brother and sister had to write their board exams. So we came to Patna, and while reading these newspapers in the small towns and villages of Bihar, every time I saw the news story about some student who had achieved something at a national or international level, I wanted to do it. Because, you know, when you read Swamiji, you understand all that is good, great, and glorious. You can claim that. You can be who you want to be. And as a kid, when I saw all these news stories, the only problem was I could not participate in any of these competitions because I was not enrolled in a school. So I had picked up a small habit. I used to write down if there was a news story about some student who received a full scholarship to study at a top university. I would write down the name of the student, the name of the scholarship, the month in which the news story came out, who can participate and how. If there was a student who had represented India at a global platform, I used to write down which global platform was this, which month did the story come out, who can represent India at these platforms and how. By the time I came to Patna and started going to school, I had a diary full of opportunities. I started participating in all of those competitions. And by the time I was finishing high school, I had represented India in over 6 different countries, won close to 200 different local, national, and international competitions. But the story was not about winning. There was something more important that was happening. I would go to Japan, South Korea, Norway, Bangladesh, America, all these places, and I would come back and I would talk to my friends like any child would. I would tell them about the flights, the hotels, the streets, that, oh, in Japan, you know, the streets were so broad, the international flights are so big. I also used to tell them the ideas that young people put forward at these global platforms, the questions that were asked at a national competition. And many times I found that young kids who were my classmates, who came from other small towns and villages of Bihar, were studying in Patna, many times they knew the answer to a question that everyone missed out on at a national platform. Many times they had ideas and creative solutions far more powerful than any idea put forward at a global platform. And I used to tell my friends, you should have been there. You should have participated. But I was quick enough to realize, while I was still a young kid, that My friends are equally hardworking and talented. The reason why they are not at these national platforms or global forums is because they do not know that these exist. So at the age of 15 or 16, I founded something called Dexterity Global. Dexterity had a simple idea. If there was an opportunity for our children and youth anywhere in the world, they should be the first ones to know about it. A competition, a scholarship, a conference, a workshop. Our young people, if there is an opportunity for them, they should be the first ones who get to know about it. The second part was also clear. Dexterity had a very simple mission, that we wanted to power the next generation of leaders. And what kind of leaders do we talk about? The leaders we talked about were the kind of leaders that Swamiji envisioned for the world when he asked for 100 young men and that the world could be transformed. When Swamiji asked, where are men? When Swamiji talked about those young people who will work like lions to solve modern day problems. So in 2008, when Dexterity was founded, the idea of servant leadership was clear. Swamiji talks about dasasya dasa, young people who are in positions of power, young people who have capability and strength, young people who have courage and conviction, but whose first responsibility is those who they serve. You can be a product manager, you can be a CEO, you can be a director, you can be in a leadership role. The first question you should be asking is, those who work under me, are they learning and growing? Are they as well served as they serve me and the rest of the organization? When you do that, automatically you serve more and more people. Automatically you increase the productivity, you increase the joy in what the entire team is doing. At Dexterity, the idea was clear that for far too long, there was a gap between our education and leadership. That far too many young people in our country relate leadership only to political leadership and political leadership only to bad leadership. But we need leadership in science, we need leadership in music, we need leadership in arts, we need leadership in all fields. So where will these kind of leaders come from? These kind of young leaders would come from India's small towns and villages. They would come from ordinary families. They would come from all parts of our country when they begin to understand that education is the way to actually lift our families up, lift our communities up, and eventually lift India and the world up. Swamiji, during his travels in Europe, Swamiji, during his travels across the world many times, he remarks that I've seen the difference. It is the education of people that can transform societies. It is the education of even the poorest that will lift more people up. But remember, this education would not just be about getting good marks in school or college, or just getting a transcript and then getting a good paycheck. Way too many of our young people today go to school so that they finish grade 10th with good percentage, then finish grade 12th with good percentage, then they go to college for a degree, and then they go to job for a paycheck. Education is not a journey from one transcript to the other, then one degree to another paycheck, and then one paycheck to the other paycheck. It is about what is that fundamental ability that you have carved within? What is that strength that you have within? What is that value that you can contribute wherever you are? If you are in a room with 5 friends and you're deciding which cinema to go to, maybe your viewpoint, your logic, your rationale, if that moves more people, that too is leadership in some way. But when you are present in a room, how does your voice change the room? How does your presence change the room? It can be within a family in the house. It can be within a classroom in a college. It can be within an office room in a workplace. But your presence should shake the world in a gentle manner. Your statements should carry some value and weight. Your contribution should make lives better for other people. At Dexterity, we have a very simple idea of leadership. We say when a 5-year-old girl child who does not know how to read or write eloquently, who does not know research or product building, when that 5-year-old girl child in a small family helps a 2-year-old girl child to walk, because the only thing the 5-year-old right now knows is how to walk. If she helps a 5-year-old sister, a 2-year-old sister to walk, then that child is a leader. When the same child is 15 years old and does not know research or product building yet or policy making yet, but that child knows how to write good English or good Hindi or Kannada or Telugu or Odia, if that young child helps write an old woman an application for a widow pension card, then that child is a leader. The same child at the age of 25 or 45 will go on to write policies for our country, will go on to build products and organizations for our people. That ability, as it continues to increase, will continue to increase the impact our young people have on the society. At Dexterity, we say leadership is your ability to deliver value through whatever limited expertise you have. Right now, the expertise for the 5-year-old is just walking. The value delivered is helping someone to walk. The expertise of the 15-year-old is writing. The value delivered is writing an application for an old lady to get a widow pension card. That expertise can continue to increase. So as young people, we should ask ourselves, why do we go to school and why do we go to college? It is to take care of the last part of that definition. Increase our expertise. Be better writers and readers, be better sports people, be better researchers, and anything that you want to be. But when you become that, then you take care of the part in the middle, which is delivering value. Swami Vivekananda beautifully says, be and make. Become scholars and prepare scholars. Become leaders and prepare leaders. Become specialists and prepare specialists. That's one role that young people can play in everyday life. I meet many young people who say, I've become a consultant, I have become a chartered accountant. I do not know, how do I directly do spiritual and national work from here? And I say, can you look around and open the door for one more child who wants to become a good consultant or a good chartered accountant? Can you be a mentor in one student's life? Can you offer support system to one kid who lives in the neighborhood or has sent an email or a LinkedIn message just this week? That be and make is an important part of leadership that we can take forward. Swamiji in national life, visible to everyone. Swamiji in personal life, I've felt it every day. The education and leadership that we talk about, if you have any further doubt that it is education alone that can pave the path forward for India, you should be reminded in this moment of a young son from our country in 1888 who goes to University College London, another young son from India who goes to Columbia University in 1913. The young individual in 1888 who goes to University College London and comes back to India, we know him as Mahatma Gandhi. The young student in 1913 who went to Columbia, we know him as B.R. Ambedkar. One would lead India's path to freedom and the other India's path to self-determination. When we talk about Gandhi or Ambedkar, when we talk about Nehru or Patel, when we talk about greats of our country, many times we look at what they were doing at the age of 50 or 60. What we need to look at is what they were doing at 15 and 16. What were they doing in their teens and in their 20s? And if we look at it, they were educated at some of the best institutions in India and around the world. But they were able to connect their education with people. Seva and Samvad was an integral part of their journey. As young leaders, while we are educated on our college campuses, service should be the bedrock of what we do. Dialogue should be something we should try and establish with strangers and known people alike. One question that we should also ask at the same time is that some of the finest young people, I think there is a net lag. One question we should also ask at the same time is, some of the finest young people from all across the world, hardworking and talented, meritorious and go-getters, must have gone to Columbia in 1913, must have gone to University College London in 1888. Why does a Gandhi become a Gandhi and an Ambedkar become an Ambedkar? The world, when it looks back at that class year of UCL or Columbia, remembers Gandhi and Ambedkar and not many others. And the answer to that lies in the Indian thought. It lies in the greater idea of education that Swamiji talked about. And that is when young people are able to merge their educational life, their student life with India's national life, new things happen. Remarkable journeys are started. That is what that great generation was able to do. They were able to merge their student life, their educational life with India's national life. And they saw what was important for India at that point in time: freedom and self-determination, making sure that more and more young Indians rise and answer that freedom's call. Likewise, today, when you look around, you have to identify what are those fields which you will take up. Will it be making education more affordable and accessible for all? Will it be making healthcare possible and accessible to the elderly and to the young? Will it be transforming how we take forward different industries and fields? And will it be new thought, new ideas, new research which you will come up with? This is an important part of our journey as young people. The dexterity journey that started 15, 16 years ago, after 16 years of dexterity's journey, almost 16 as we enter 2023-24, I am proud to report to you. I report to you with humility at the same point in time. In last 15 years, these young people trained in the dexterity system, trained with Swamiji's ideas. At the core of their education is that pursuit of a man-making education that will help them in nation building tomorrow. These young people have received more than 175 crores in scholarships from top universities across the world, including the Harvards and Stanfords, the Georgetowns, the Cambridges, and the Oxfords of the world. Many of you might wonder, where do these young people come from? If you read the newspaper in December of 2021, you might have seen, or on social media, a viral story of a 17-year-old young girl from Tirupur in Tamil Nadu who had never ever taken a train out of her hometown and who was accepted to University of Chicago on a full scholarship for a bachelor's degree in medicine. This young student received a 2.5 crore, 3 crore scholarship. A child whose parents, grandparents, or even her, she could have never imagined studying at a top university on a full scholarship. All of the country's media houses were interviewing her. I, at that point in time, was in a different part of the country, and I was on Zoom trying to watch that interview, on YouTube actually, trying to watch that interview. And I saw that right behind her, in all of those interviews, was an A4 size printout of Swami Vivekananda's picture. And it was pasted right behind her as she spoke with all media houses. I asked her that I saw that nice interview of yours. What was even nicer was that you had Swamiji behind you. And she said, sir, without Swamiji, without that inspiration, I might not have come this far. So Swamiji as an inspiration was behind her, literally in that poster, in that picture. Last summer, you might have seen the story of a young child whose father is a daily wage earner who earns less than 200 rupees a day, who lives in a small hut, maybe not even 5 feet tall in terms of walls. And that child received a 2.5 crore scholarship to go to Pennsylvania to pursue his bachelor's degree. In his village, for 4 days, media people did not leave, the slum where he lived. And one of the media people entered the small hut where this kid was living. And the camera zoomed in. And on the cot, there were 3 books kept. All 3 books were books of Swamiji. Why I say this is the dexterity story, while working with young people from around the country, those who come from some of the most humble backgrounds that you can imagine, sons and daughters of drivers and shopkeepers, sons and drivers of daily wage earners and domestic help. At the same time, sons and daughters of young people whose parents were born in privilege or have been able to secure privilege. At the core of their education is Swamiji's teachings, that it is good to be born in a church, but very bad to die there. It is good to have a good starting point, but will you actually make a tangible difference in your life and that of others? Will you have a journey that is now better and longer and more fruitful and more meaningful than it could have been if you didn't have what you have received? The reason why I gave you that story of a young girl from Tirupur, a young boy from a village of Bihar, is that as young people, many times we decide on achieving big dreams. We decide on achieving big targets and goals. But in order to be able to stay inspired every day, in order to maintain and protect that faith in ourselves, in order to have a higher purpose and larger vision every day, many times we begin to slack. In all of those moments, do not just switch on YouTube and search how to be happy, how to be inspired, because then you'll find some motivational speaker who's saying every day in the morning, wake up and say 5 times, I'm happy. Do not do that. Many times, you and I, people like us in this generation, we go to YouTube looking for all kinds of knowledge and wisdom that we want to acquire in our lives. There's a famous joke story I like to tell, that you have today motivational speakers in different parts of the country, some who'll talk about how they were walking down a path one time and a dog began chasing them. And then they say that the dog was running and I was running, the dog was running and I was running, and all of a sudden they stop. And everybody is listening attentively by then. And then the person says, I stopped, and then I saw that the dog also stopped. Then I looked at the dog, and the dog looked at me, and then I smiled. And then I saw the dog also started smiling. And young people like you and I hear these motivational lectures, and next day we have an exam or an interview, and we are sitting down and smiling because somebody said, when problems come to you, smile. Well, they are in part right, but there is something called contextual intelligence. There is something called context. The problem is many of these stories are lifted from Swamiji's life, work, and travels. This story actually happened. And it is called a story, it goes by the name Face the Brutes in many textbooks, reference books, and many places, where Swamiji was chased by a group of monkeys. But Swamiji stopped. And when he stopped and when he faced the brutes boldly, the brutes went away. The monkeys went away. But remember, Swamiji does not just say face your problems. He also gives you programming and software and wiring for your mind, body, and soul, so that when problems come, you're actually strong enough and wise enough and mature enough to face those problems with courage and conviction, with faith, with optimism. That is the reason why do not just pick up one line and then leave the rest. Many times, jokingly, I tell some of my young friends that when you read honesty is the best policy, do not go and jump from the 5th floor of LIC on the next day saying, if only honesty is the best policy, why is LIC not selling it? So many times the lines we lift without understanding the depth of it causes trouble. So one of the best things you can do starting this evening, if you haven't already, pick up books of Swamiji. Pick up the letters of Swami Vivekananda, lectures of Swami Vivekananda, talks of Swami Vivekananda, wherever you want to start from. Pick up Swamiji's ideas on Karma Yoga and see how you can begin bringing it into your daily life. That will be an important step in moving forward. I could have said many things. I want to end largely with one story so that when you forget everything, you remember the story and you're like, all right, the guy who came, he didn't say much, but that joke at the end was fine. So it is a story where you know the first part, I'll tell you the second part. If you know the second part as well, I'll thank you for, being patient. The first part of the story is, there was once a cap seller and he was going down a road on a lazy summer afternoon. He felt very tired and, he took a detour and he went and he sat under a tree and he kept his bag of caps next to himself. He fell asleep. 1 hour later, he woke up and he saw all the caps were gone. The only cap that he was wearing was the cap that was on. Every other cap was gone. So he was perplexed and confused and he was worried and he was wondering what to do, what happened. So he got up and he went 5 steps forward. He looked around and he saw that up on the tree right behind him, all monkeys had a cap on. So he put his hand on his head and he began to wonder what to do. All of a sudden, he saw all the monkeys put their hand on their head. So he saw, all right, looks like the monkeys are copying. So he gently touched his nose and all the monkeys gently touched their nose. Then he took out his cap and he threw it on the ground and he saw all the monkeys threw their caps on the ground and he just went around, picked all the caps, put it back in the bag and kept walking. Good story, right? Except 20 years later, there was another cap seller. He was going down the same road. Lazy summer afternoon, got tired, took a detour, went and sat under a tree, kept his bag of caps next to him. He fell asleep. 1 hour later, when he woke up, bag of caps was gone. The only cap that was on his head. This guy did not get perplexed or confused, worried, or, start wondering. He just got up, went 5 steps forward, looked behind. All the monkeys on the tree had a cap on. So he just smiled and put his hand on the head. All the monkeys put their hand on their head. He touched his nose gently. All the monkeys touched their nose gently. And then he just took out his cap, threw it on the ground. And this time, a small young monkey came running down the tree, picked up the cap, put that cap on as well and said, "Only your papa told you the story." And then he went back up on the tree. The reason why I tell you this story is that even monkeys, even animals within a generation learn. For us, remember, the past generations might have been able to do away with their mistakes or with many of our accidents by luck or by chance. For the next generation to be able to fix these problems, that will only happen through education and through training. And if the father of a cap seller does not tell him a full story and does not give him enough caution, even man does not evolve to the next level. But even if a group of monkeys are sharing information and knowledge, have maturity and wisdom, they can trick those guys even 20 years later. So at the end of the day, it is important to bring Swamiji in our everyday lives. I remember I was at one of our ashrams in South India one time, and a young schoolboy, Ramakrishna Mission runs a school there. came running to Swamiji. And our Swamiji's talk with love and with so much love. There is no word that I can put. So the young boy came running to Swamiji. Swamiji, I have learned Swami Vivekananda's lines. So the Swamiji there said, you will become Swami Vivekananda, no? So the boy said, yes, Maharaj, yes, Maharaj. So Maharaj said, remember, don't become Yashraj Films Swami Vivekananda. Become real Swami Vivekananda. So that is important for all of us. Swamiji is not about dialogues. Swamiji is not about phrases. Swamiji is not about one catchy quote and one flowery line in a debate, and then you win the college debate or the school debate. Swamiji is not about, viral speeches. Swamiji is about that viral fever, which once it catches you, then there is no lockdown, only opening up. And for the rest of your life, you continue doing national work. You continue to be a youth leader all your lives, within your family, out in the society, and in the country and the world. I pray to Thakurma and Swamiji for strength to all of you, for wisdom to all of us, and for our continued journey as young leaders in this larger national pursuit and journey. Thank you very much. My namaskars and pranams to all of you.